Hey guys, Nat here from nataliebiviano.com. Here shooting you a video today to share with you my #1 visualization strategy that has helped me in the field of conflict. It's hands down the most effective strategy that I've been using over the years. It has served me in terms of the way I approach conflict, manage it, and ultimately the control of conflict, and obviously I walk away with good outcomes. So just some context around that is why I want to share this with you is because we know, it's inevitable, right? So conflict is going to happen, and if it happens frequently enough in our marriage, that may start to tell a different story on how our marriage pans out. So the goal, obviously, with the work that I'm committed to is making you guys grow together rather than grow apart. So having said that, let's move right along. The #1 tool that my brain defaults to and goes to is this. It's H2O. So let me just explain. H2O, obviously the chemical representation of water, and of course you know that water is the antidote to fire. So conflict, fire, water puts out the fire. So metaphorically, yes, it makes sense. The water puts out the fire. But what I want to go into more detail about is just explain how the application of the meaning that I've attached to H2O, how that works, and that's where the impact lies. So lots of O, which is oxygen, which means 2 deep breaths. Whether or not you do yoga, 2 deep breaths was as simple as that. So as I take my 2 deep breaths, there's 2 words that I think about that start with H. And this kind of happens simultaneously. I start to feel conflict coming about, and usually for me, I feel conflict arising when my heart beats really fast, or when I feel that I'm getting on the defensive, or when I feel, just at that point where I can't control my tongue and I'm just spitting vile. That's when I know, okay, hold up, I need to go to my H2O place. And so I take my 2 deep breaths, and the 2 H words that I think about in this exact situation of conflict coming place is what I'm about to say going to help or hinder the outcome? Help or hinder? H2O. 2 deep breaths. Help or hinder. Help or hinder. Literally, that's what I do. I whisper it to myself, and I talk to myself all the time, so it's not, I'm not fazed by it, but it might be a little bit weird if you don't. But even if it is, I truly just encourage you to practice it, even if it's in your head. Just that practice of H2O, help or hinder, help or hinder, help or hinder. And what I wanted to just back up for a second there is really just explain just what is happening to our bodies when we do take in that breath. So our bodies, being the remarkable chamber that it is, it does a lot of automatic things. So in our nervous system, oh, what's that behind me? Zaza, Mum is finishing this. In our nervous system, we have things that just happen automatically. Zah, please, let Mama finish, please. So our heart beating happens automatically. We don't even think about it. Our body's ability to release adrenaline and cortisol happens automatically. Don't even think about it. Our body's response to fight or flight, the amygdala just triggering off, that happens automatically. We don't think about it. Our breathing happens automatically. In the background, don't even think about it, just happens. However, and this is the part that's super powerful, our breathing or our breath is something that we can control. And that in itself really just sets the tone, or gives us the choice here of how we direct the path of which way our conflict is going to go. So let's just paint a hypothetical, okay? It's 4:30, 5 o'clock mark. I've been running behind schedule. My toddler's been toilet training. I haven't factored in all these additional kind of cleaning up time, phone calls that are coming in that I didn't think that were going to come in. Anyway, my day's running behind schedule. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock. Dinner's not ready, or not being prepared to be ready. I'm going to have some really crazy kids if I don't feed some hungry bellies. So I make a phone to hubby to help me out here. So frazzled as I am, I might go, honey, I am running behind schedule and I won't be able to get dinner ready. Can you please pick something up on the way home? Husband on the other end, who hasn't been here and doesn't know the tempo of what's kind of been going on all day, might just innocently respond with something like, oh, haven't got time for dinner, hey, but always have a bit of time for Facebook. That would be a scenario where I would have to implement H2O, because I've come in with a request or a comment and he's come in with a response that's unsupportive and borderline critical. And at that point, I could go either way. I could really just tell him what's exactly on my mind out of instinct and just go absolutely berserko. And that's instinct talking, right? That's just letting loose, ploughing in and really giving him all that I've got in terms of the day. Well, you haven't been here all day. How do you know these kids are just bleeding off me? Whatever, right? It just can turn into absolute verbal diarrhea, which he then, can just kind of come back with with not a very favourable outcome. Anyway, you've been in this situation, I'm sure, as have I, and we know that the outcome is not pretty. So that was one way we go about it. Or an alternative is to do the whole, okay, I'm feeling a little bit of conflict going on there because what just happened there? I take my 2 deep breaths, and at that point, what's happening with those breaths is oxygen on a physiological level is feeding my body. Okay, by taking those breaths, my cells are being nourished, and more importantly, my brain cells are being fed, which means that I have the capacity and the headspace to come back down to ground zero and to neutral ground and to kind of go, I can think with intention, I can say something that's mindful, rather than divert into instinct mode, which is basically the amygdala saying fight, 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 because unsafety, he's just said something not supportive. And let's face it, when we get into instinct mode, fight or flight, we're fighting. And you know who comes out when fight mode comes on? Dragon Lady. Yes, Dragon Lady, she lives in all of us. And let's face it, she's feral and she doesn't have a filter. So F-bombs will be dropped and all sorts of things will be coming out, which obviously we get to a point where we go, oh God, it shouldn't have just even played out that way. Really, we're talking about something as trivial as dinner, a daily occurrence. So this is why those 2 breaths are critical in this process, and just it just gives you that ground. So having said that, I hope that by sharing this with you, it's offered some insight as to how you think about conflict, and I hope that it's helpful for you in the next day or 2, or even next week, which, as we know, conflict is going to arise. Zaza! Anyway, that was what I wanted to share. I hope it's been useful. Please share with us. Please share with us if it has. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. And I thank you for tuning in. For I feel that this work that I'm doing is devoted to making sure that your marriage is as fruitful and as connected as possible. That's my goal, and I'm so glad you're here. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.